According to a survey from the Pew Research Center, there's a reasonable chance that some of you watching this video will either be or already are finding yourself to be part of what they call the sandwich generation. What that means is you'll be the part stuck in the middle, right? And the two pieces of bread on either side of you are probably the two most important things that matter to you in this world: your kids and your parents. Does that sound like you? Do you still have your kids at home, or still in college, or even just starting out with their own lives as adults, but they still need your help? Will they ever stop needing your help? And what about your parents? If you're fortunate to still have your parents, are they doing just fine on their own, or are you finding yourself more and more in charge of helping them in different ways? If any of that sounds eerily familiar to you, first let me tell you that you're not alone, okay? There are many people out there just like you going through this and trying to figure out the best way forward. Follow me into this video, and I'm going to talk about the challenges you're facing, financial stress, possible solutions, and things to look out for. And I'll drop in just a pinch of good news for you at the end. Let's go. I've always been a visual guy, so the best way I can describe how you feel right now is like this. On one part of your life, you have your kids, right? And which are near and dear to you. And let's face it, your life has revolved around these guys for at least 1 or 2 decades. And now, even though you're getting closer for them to be able to stand on their own 2 feet, a parent's job is never really officially done, right? So depending on your situation, you may have a lot of heavy lifting still to do, or maybe just serve as a backdrop if something goes wrong. But either way, on this side of your life, you're constantly keeping an eye on it. And then on the other side are your parents. Maybe you're really fortunate and you have both in your life still, or maybe at least one. And I'm guessing if you're watching this video, they mean a whole heck of a lot to you. And you feel an obligation to return that love that they provided to you growing up. And right in the middle is you. Oh, cool. I didn't know our editing team was adding sound bites now. I like it. Let me show you what I mean by this. By sharing with you that survey that I talked about earlier, provided by the Pew Research Group, Pew Research Center, I believe. They put this together. It's a really nice chart. It shows really that between your 30s and 60s is where you're likely to get stuck if this is happening to you, right in the middle of that sandwich. In fact, more than half of us will experience this somewhere in our 40s probably, which is really the irony in this conversation. I mean, just as your kids are growing up and needing less of your minute-to-minute attention, on the other side of the family here is your parents who are actually going in the opposite direction. It's sort of like an angry seesaw, or teeter-totter, depending on where and when you grew up. By the way, that video really has nothing to do with my story, but it is funny, and it does represent that when any situation gets out of balance, it can get ugly. And so here's some good news and some not so great news. So when you feel this side of your family pulling at you and then this side doing the same thing, where's the pressure point, right, in that thing? It's right here in the middle. It's you. The good news is that your family views you as the most stable and able person, and that's why they're asking so much of you. The bad news is all of that can feel like an enormous amount of weight and pressure on your shoulders. Let's talk about the challenges for those of you that are in that pressure sandwich of what you're dealing with these days. Let's start with the financial stuff. Money's probably flowing out your door faster than ever before. Your parents might be needing medical care, housing assistance, etc. And the kids maybe are in college or starting their careers or struggling financially still, or even moving back home. Yes, that does happen. This can cause serious cash flows for you. It's also where working with a financial planner might be super valuable. There are so many factors that go into this, including other family members, assets of your parents, health issues. Having a professional resource to help organize and sort through this pile of responsibility might be just what you need to find solutions for you and release some of that steam building up in your head. Now, on that topic, let's talk emotions. Clients we help navigate through these matters often say they feel like emotional tennis ball, right? Like getting hit back and forth again and again, day after day. They'll very candidly say that neither their kids nor their parents are very good at listening to them. And if they find themselves unable to help them to the extent that they really want to, then they start feeling a layer of guilt. And that guilt seems to build like brick by brick until it gets unbearable. And then you experience burnout. Now, it's hard to come back to center, if you will, after you get it that far, right? So let's talk about time management. And I think Jim Gaffigan, the comedian, described the stress of being a father of 5 kids really well. He said, imagine it's like treading water in a pool, holding 4 kids, and then someone throws you a 5th kid. It's kind of like that. And if that's what you feel, the point I'm trying to make here is that regardless of how many family members are pulling you in all directions, it's probably more than you're ever used to. So scheduling, medical appointments, activities, household chores, all things that are time management related become super critical, and time efficiency becomes your only friend. If you can't get help from a spouse or your siblings, burnout is a real danger here. So any opportunity you can find for personal time for yourself is critical. Try to find some and try to be sure you make it count. Now let's talk about a few ways to cope and navigate through this challenge that you probably did nothing to get yourself into in the first place. There are some community services like senior centers, respite care, counseling centers, and that might alleviate, some of the caregiving burdens that you're dealing with now. Support groups as well. Why? Well, sometimes commiserating and knowing that others are trudging through that same kind of path with you is a way to make you all feel better. I want to stress also open dialogue with your family, right? Many hands make light work. If you have other family members, siblings, whoever it may be, honest conversations and fair and balanced solutions usually yield the best outcomes. With your advisor, be open. Make sure he or she knows what's being asked of you and expected of you and for how long you may be in that situation. And for your own sake, learn how to say no when necessary. Let me give you an example of when it might be time to say that. How about when you're taking care of mom and you're the only one physically close to her on the map? Your siblings are hundreds or thousands of miles away. You're getting overwhelmed with the volume of time and type of care that she's starting to need. So you tell your siblings, hey, it's time for mom to use some of her own money, pay for a professional service that's better equipped to handle this than I am. But your siblings stomp on that idea right away. They don't want mom to have to spend her money on something that we can do for her at home. But they can't commit to it personally because they're so far away. Now, there's really a good chance that they don't fully understand what your mom needs and just how much of a commitment it requires. And on the other side, they also don't like the idea of mom running out of money. That's usually a big stressor to everyone in the family if that happens. So these are really delicate topics, but they need to be openly addressed or they will fester and cause long-term damage to your relationships with your siblings and other family members. Now, one more quick graph I'd like to share with you, again, from the Pew Research Center. This one shows that folks in the sandwich generation, like we've just talked about, maybe like you are right now, well, they actually scored the same or higher than others when asked about their satisfaction with their family life. I like that chart, and I want you to remember that if you're in this tight spot right now, it won't last forever. And after all, that chart just showed that if you can pull it off successfully, it just might bring you more joy and satisfaction than you ever expected. Sticking with your family is what makes it a family. It's a quote by Mitch Albom. In summary, though, push forward, keep focused, stay strong, and communicate with your whole family. And remember this quote from Michael J. Fox. Everybody loves Michael J. Fox. Family is not an important thing. It's everything.